One of the challenges I always see when health business owners are actually looking to grow and scale their business is the challenges they have in and around hiring team. Unfortunately, most people call them staff, but it is actually a team. I'm going to show you right now how you need to keep this really simple in order to make sure you can multiply, grow, and ultimately create the business that you're wanting. You know exactly what I'm talking about right now. You need a new team member, or maybe recently or in the past you have, and you procrastinate for way too long. You get yourself thinking about, oh, what about this? What about that? I don't know how to. It all seems too hard. And most of the time we actually back away from hiring a new team member, and well, most of the time we end up doing it, but we just take way too long to do it. And so you're left in that situation where you should have done it a month ago. You should have done it 2 months ago. You burn the candle at both ends. You sacrifice your own lifestyle. You sacrifice your own relationships. You might not be doing as much exercise as you want. Maybe you're not spending as much time traveling or time with the family and kids, and you start to regret some of the decisions that you've made or haven't made. Well, the good news is that you don't need to be in that situation. Most people make hiring way too hard, way too complicated, and they try and get the perfect metrics in place and the perfect matrix designed before they actually go ahead and pull the trigger. Now, the reason why I called this podcast Simplify to Multiply is actually very, very simple. Ironic, right? Is the simple fact that if you want to multiply anything, whether it's the team growth, whether it's the multiplication of your team culture and the benefits of that, if you want to multiply the ability for your business to scale, you have to keep it simple. You have to bring it back to the simplest numbers, the simplest details, the simplest metrics to get the right multiplication in place. So when it comes to hiring, what people always do is they invest way too much time. Well, they don't invest it, they spend. They spend too much time trying to work out the exact job role, the exact avenues of what I'm going to pay them, you know, what they're going to do, what clients I can give them. And as a net result, they don't ever pull the trigger when they need to, and they lose massive amounts of traction. So much momentum is lost. And ultimately, we know that a lot of the time they miss out on the right person that should have joined their team because they've procrastinated. They've tried to say and do all of these different complicated scenarios. And ultimately, all they needed to do was keep it very simple and be able to move forward. Let me give you an example, because this is really crucial. Most people still are probably sitting there going, oh, but Jason, I have to make sure this is in place. And, you know, let's be honest, we all hear about the HR experts out there. They always want to do their free webinars with our associations and tell us about all the legals and all of this and all of that and the contracts. And look, the reality is if there wasn't so much convoluted rubbish out there in the marketplace, then the legal side of things, they wouldn't even have an industry, and the HR departments wouldn't be able to justify their job or existence. So let's keep in mind that ultimately at the end of the day, I'm not saying it's not important. It is. But ultimately, regardless of what's written on a piece of paper in contracts or in paperwork, or in agreements regarding the hiring process, if people want to argue, if people want to take their interpretation at a later date to be different to what was intended, that's going to be their choice, and mediation, legals, and that are going to result. So let's get too hung up on trying to overcomplicate the system, trying to get all the HR and legals and everything in place at the start, because to be totally honest, it's a waste of damn time. What you need to do first up is just simply look for the right person, make sure we use the right words, because a lot of the time you're not even getting the people applying for the position that you're wanting, because you're actually trying to talk to people in the wrong way and you're not attracting the right people in the first place. Understanding that some people are going to be more turned onto a job ad by your language and the words you use is critically important. there's also other people that are going to be completely turned off by some of the language that you use. So identifying the right words to be able to speak to the right people that you're looking for in the first place is fundamentally one of the first things you need to be able to do. If you talk too much about maybe it's just something as simple as everyone wanting to say, we've got an amazing team culture. It's a dynamic environment. We're always at the cutting edge of, innovation. We do, new programs and that as the leading people in the industry. And you do all of this, innovation and cutting edge, and you're dynamic, and we do things that other people don't. The challenge with just going for those old chestnuts is the fact that there's going to be about 20 to 40% of our industry that are completely turned off by that. They don't want to be in an environment where they're jumping around trying to do this. They're trying to be creative and innovative and hyperventilating. They actually want to be in a stable position where they fundamentally can learn and grow. They can make sure they get the right patient outcomes. Their time with their clients is valued. They don't feel like they're cutting people's treatment short or doing something that's way out there or trying to be a bit risky with what we do. We're just going to do what we know works. We're going to help the clients out, have greater impact to the community, and we're going to methodically go about our business and getting, ultimately, we're a great team player. We don't cause any trouble. We do everything we need to for the team, the business, the culture. We get great patient outcomes. And in that situation, they might be the perfect person that you're wanting. I mean, that sounds pretty ideal, doesn't it, right now? You've got someone who plays by the rules, is a good team player, doesn't jump out of their skin and create a whole bunch of chaos for the business. They get everything done. People love them. But by the language of using, we're trying to be too dynamic and too innovative. We're at the cutting edge. We're industry leaders. You're actually turning away a lot of you're actually turning away a lot of the potential team members that are going to be optimally placed for you in your business right now. Again, this is an example of people trying to overcomplicate the hiring process. And remember, I said you've got to simplify to multiply. Go back to what they actually want to hear. They want to hear about the job being nice and stable. They want to be in a position where they know that their time with their clients is valued. They want to know that patient outcomes and getting the right result in the right way is the number one fundamental thing for the business. Not trying to be whiz-bang fantastic and dynamic and being the pinnacle of this. So think about your language. Again, the simplest things, such as 2 or 3 words in the first 4 or 5 lines that they read, will determine whether they read the 8th and 10th and 12th lines or whether they just scroll past. So that's a great example of how we need to simplify to multiply. I'll give you another quick example as well. We've just been speaking to one of our clients, and she's in a position where she's wanting to hire another team member right now. And this is an example based on money. It involves a little bit of home visits and a little bit of a mobile side to the business as well. It's a bit of a hybrid model, and a lot of clients that we work with have a bit of that, where they might do a bit of work at a nursing home or corporate contracts, some sporting teams, home visits, etc. And so as a net result, there's a bit of a travel and mobile componentry to that. Now, once you start talking about employees and travel, everyone wants to start going, oh, well, you have to do fuel allowance and you have to do this and you have to do that. And then people start discussions about, well, how much do you pay per kilometre or per minute, or do you just pay a flat rate? And when you stop to think about the tax system, they allow a certain amount of taxable credits and tax rebates, etc., based on the engine size. So, if you've got a 1.6 litre Corolla, that's different to a 6 litre V8 and blah, 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 right? Like, you can see what I'm saying here straight away. It's just way too complicated. Why would you waste your time just turning around and going, well, we're going to allocate, $20 a day for fuel, or, we're going to give you 10 minutes for that, or we've looked it up on Google and it's 17 kilometers. So 17 kilometers times by this is, guys, seriously, it is ridiculously overly complicated, convoluted system. No one wants to work from that. Keep it simple. Why wouldn't we just turn around and actually tell people that what we're actually going to be paying is we're actually going to pay them an additional 20% on top of their salary to cover incidentals like a very small amount of travel or fuel allowance? Why don't we simply break it down and say, well, we know that what's going to happen is you're probably going to use $5 to $8 worth of fuel each week to do these 6 or 8 home visits. Instead, just turn around and say, we're going to pay $30 a week to cover the following, right? It's simplified and you can scale that so much quicker. It's a fixed expense that makes it so much easier when you know exactly what it is and you're not trying to do it per home visit, per session each week that involves these type of parameters. And that's where a lot of people in the health industry go completely wrong when they're talking about finances such as fuel allowance and travel and timing, etc., to do that. This particular client has a couple of clients, quite a few clients that are home-based through NDIS. So in that situation, rather than paying that client, $40 an hour as a full-time employee on a, $80,000 a year salary, just rough numbers there, I turned around and said, why don't we put it forward so that we actually turn around and we're actually paying them $60 an hour, not $40 an hour. And you might sit there and go, I can't do that, it's too much. That's literally a 50% pay rise. We're now turning around to having that same full-time employer potentially earning $120,000 a year, not $80,000 a year based on that type of salary. But what it is doing is it means that we're taking out all the challenging parts around time for this, how many kilometers, how much fuel, and all of the other rubbish involved with that. Because they're off site for 10 hours a week, do they, how much of their phone bill are you going to pay? They've got to use their internet data to write notes when they finish at the home visit and all this. And honestly, you might think, there might be a few people listening to this and go, oh, it's not that complicated. But I can tell you right now, I deal with literally hundreds of health business owners, and you would be staggered with how many people have a very complicated system in and around that in their business right now. So why don't we just simplify that? Why don't we just actually turn that into a situation where we go, hey, you know what? We just need to right now do the following. We just need to have it so that we're going to have this amount of set expenses in place and fixed costs to more than cover it. What it's showing is generosity. It's showing them that we just want to make sure that we get the right patient outcomes, the right things happening for the business and for them, and we're not worried about the nitty-gritty. Perception on this is huge. If people think you want to nitpick over every single dollar, it sets a groundwork and a framework for that to always be a situation. I don't know about you, but I don't want to be nitpicking over what's going to be $5 or $10 a week. Because ultimately that's all it comes down to 9 times out of 10. They're whinging about $3 or $4 a day. And they're not actually whinging because it's the money. It's the fact that they need this and want that, etc. So if you can identify straight up that something like this is going to be a speed bump, something like this is going to create extra discussions, extra comments, extra challenges, extra time to process, fortnightly invoices and those type of things, then it's a completely waste of time. You're not simplifying it, and as a net result, you're not going to as easily multiply. So without getting into too much more detail in and around that, think about it right now in your business. What's the, say, 1 or 2 things you need to do right now to simplify to multiply? Most of the time, it's going to come down to time and money. And if you can easily take those out of the equation, then you're going to be on a much greater path to have better team culture, better outcomes for your clients. Your business is going to grow and scale with much greater ease. So think about that. And the other one that we gave a great example for was the hiring process. Simplify that. Make it simple so that you're getting more people of the substance that you're wanting actually applying and engaging in the first place. Even just a matter of using 2 or 3 of those words that I was explaining before can be the difference between someone scrolling past your advert and actually paying attention and making contact. So it's not that marketplace is too busy or there's not enough people out there, etc. It's that your responsibility to provide information and attract the right person was actually misguided from the start. And most of the time, it's not because, I want to criticize you. It's not. It's actually because you've just tried to make the system too complicated. Simplify to multiply. Always be able to give more and do more. Keep it simple, and it's always simplicity that multiplies. I'll talk to you again very soon. Hey guys, thank you very much for listening to another episode of the Profitable Practice Podcast. I would love nothing more than for you to be able to leave a review. I get so much joy out of listening and reading the amazing things that you guys say about this. So please subscribe to our channel, leave a review, and share it with your friends. Let's get some more fantastic information out there so all of us can grow the industry together. Cheers for now.